Hi, it's Katie.
And Katie, and you are listening to ProperTea, the podcast where we spill the tea on Toronto real estate.
Let's get started. Hey guys, welcome to ProperTea. How you doing?
Hello. How are you?
I like that we're waiting as though there's going to be a response that we can hear. It's not a thing that's going to happen.
I was going to say it might be a thing that's going to happen, but then I remember that we're recording a podcast, so no, it won't be a thing.
No, exactly. It's not even like I'm pausing for like the studio audience, like recording to go over it when we go live on the air. It's just nothing.
No, I mean, unless we do a live episode, maybe one day.
One day. Guys, let us know if you're interested in that.
Post-pandemic.
I guess in my head, I was just like, it's polite to give people a moment to respond.
It is, yeah.
Anyway, Katie, what are we talking about today?
I have a question for you first, or I have an observation for you first.
Oh, okay.
You know what? It's something that we have not yet talked about on this podcast.
What?
At least not on the episodes that have made it live.
What?
Tea.
Oh shit! Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah, like our title is ProperTea, and we have not. I don't think we have one time spoken about tea.
Well, ironically, I am drinking tea today. It's cashmere chai.
That's what?
Yes, I know. I found it. I just had like one, like the really fancy Kuzmi tea that they have at Balzac's, which I'm saying correctly and definitely not saying Balzac. The like really fancy brand, and they come in those like really pretty tins. I had like one single Kuzmi tea Kashmiri chai, and they spelled chai with a T. It was like TCHI, and I was like, this is
next level
way
tea,
above my pay grade. But
yeah,
it's here, and I can't find any other black tea, so I guess that's what I'm having today. Not that I don't love chai, it just felt like, I maybe should have saved it for a special occasion, and I didn't.
I have honestly never been like super adventurous with my tea. So you've seen my tea stash. It's all variations of black tea, like Earl Grey, English breakfast. We don't really vary. We don't go for very far.
She has like 3 different versions of decaffeinated Earl Grey.
I do.
I've never seen that outside of like a coffee shop before.
We loves an Earl Grey. We loves it. Okay, that's the new flag coming out of me. Carly, I'm going to give you a little shout out because you are the full reason that all of my new flan has started to come back out in the last month or so. So there you go. If you know, you know. Okay, so growing up, the tea that we always drank at my house was decaf Earl Grey from Tetley, because my mom couldn't have caffeine past like 12 o'clock.
I mean, I really, really identify with that. So.
Yeah. So that was like decaf Earl Grey Tetley tea was the tea that I grew up with. And then I kind of went on a little bit of a tea journey. Like I stuck mostly with black tea because I don't love herbal teas. With the exception of Starbucks peach tea. That's delicious.
That peach tea's crazy, except I always burn myself on it.
It's so good. That sucks about the burning though.
Yeah, I just can't wait.
Yeah. But so I did go on a little bit of a tea journey and have bought a whole bunch of different kinds of black tea. Every now and then I'd try like a peppermint or a chamomile, which not my fave.
So odd.
Although also oddly, Starbucks, I do like the Starbucks mint tea.
The Starbucks mint tea is great. That's
also
like
good, yeah.
I'm a big fan of mint tea. I actually really like herbal teas. I like mint chamomile. My best friend and her wife turned me on to moringa tea.
I've never heard of that.
Which is fantastic, and it's also like really good for you and great for your immune system, and like super plug, and like you want more information, go check out Zoe's Ghana Kitchen. I will probably tell them that I plugged them on the show. But yeah, that my mom also, like, the shelves that are like on a corner, and they have like the weird, like when you open them, it opens 2 doors, and then there's like a rolling caddy that you
Mm-hmm.
spin. So
I
in
think
my
that's called a
parents,
lazy Susan.
I think you're right, but I honestly don't know. And I've just seen it in cupboards before, and I mean, I have nightmares about it because the one that my parents had at their old place in New York was it was like spices on the top rack and teas on the bottom rack, or maybe it was the other way around. Doesn't matter. The point is that there were too many and there was no organization system. So if you turn it, everything would just fall out.
Oh no.
You'd have to like, or if you had to get to a tea that was like hiding behind something, and it's like, Mom wants a lemon zinger tonight, but the lemon zinger is buried under like, 8 different, raspberry zingers and constant comment and God, what's the celestial seasonings one with the lady and the dragon? It doesn't matter. The point is, I really like that one. It's delicious, and I loved the box. It felt very like
I have actually also had lemon zinger,
fun.
which I did like. So apparently I'm really contradicting myself because I do like more herbal as teas are like pouring out of my mouth. I'm like, oh, I do like that. I do like that. But the problem is I like it so infrequently that like when I buy a box, I end up keeping it for like 100 years.
Yeah,
Yeah. I feel
I
you
know.
about that cupboard though. I had one
Oh
of
my
those
God,
too.
that cupboard is just. I mean, it stressed me out, but it stressed no one out more than it stressed James out. Like, poor James, my partner, who was just like, he'd come and see it and just be like, I have to go. Like, I understand. I understand. But for me, it wasn't until I left the house and came back that I realized that this was like not normal. Do you know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
grew up in it, and I was like, this is the average level of chaos in everyone's home. And for the record, I'm not mad about it. Like, it's fine. I love the way that I was brought up. It just is just I mean, I'm staring into the void right now thinking
You
about
really
it.
are. But I'm just like fixing my little recording studio over here because it keeps falling down. This is
Yeah,
the third
Katie's
time.
under a blanket that pretty much the tent pole is her head.
It, we'll post a picture of it.
Yeah.
But
Okay, well, anyway,
anyway,
sorry
back to
we
tea.
forgot to talk about tea. We'll talk about tea more. This was a little tea
We got
diversion for y'all.
really into real estate and we yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
our tagline
to
is
be fair
tangents
to
and tea.
it was mostly just because the name was just so great. I mean, we do like tea, but proper tea, like spill the tea on
We love it.
property, was
We
just
love
such a
tea.
good name, and it just fits so well. And so now, I mean, we're clearly pandering and like scrabbling to fit the tea into the rest of the podcast. But
Honestly though, as we get into winter, it's gonna be really cozy to like drink more tea. So I'm not mad about it. We
yeah,
can
that's true.
let us know. Let us know what your favorite black tea is. And
Yeah. And we'll get some and we'll review it. Oh, that's what we should do. We should do tea
yeah.
reviews.
Oh my god, yeah. Okay. So look out for that
Done.
episode. Look
Okay.
out for that. That's gonna be a fun one.
Why did your face just go purple?
Because I'm currently using my laptop and I have it set up in front of my desktop screen, and my desktop screen just went blank. Normally, I just remembered that I turned that computer off, so the whirring isn't heard in the background from
Oh,
the
true.
computer. And I didn't do that this time, so I'm going to do that. Not right now because I moved the keyboard. So
If you hear some whirring, it's the aliens.
it's
Anyway,
the aliens. It's the
um,
aliens. Shout out to drinking the podcast. No, drinking the podcast, drinking the
drinking
Kool-Aid
the
podcast.
Kool-Aid. Drinking the
Um,
Kool-Aid podcast. If you want some crazy stories and conspiracy theories, check out Drinking the Kool-Aid.
yeah, I recently got hooked, which is terrible for me because I'm scared of everything. Um,
That's true. Katie wouldn't come to like a ukulele and joke night that was vaguely Halloween themed because it happened to be in October because she I think is afraid of October.
it it looks spooky. You told me there was gonna be scary ghost stories, but
Yeah,
anyway,
okay, we're not going to get into it. It was hilarious. People were singing songs about skeletons on ukuleles. It was not scary.
that might have been acceptable for me, but so I recently, it's a friend of mine is the host, Amanda, and I recently started listening to it and it's really good. I really like it. It's terrible for my sleep. I listened to one story about the Titanic, and then they do 2 stories per episode. So I listened to the first one on the Titanic, which was a conspiracy theory, and it was really interesting. And then the second one was something about someone being possessed or something, and I got like 5 minutes into that one and I was like, nope, can't listen to this, too scary. But then I couldn't sleep for like 2 days. There was like one night where I like shot out of bed. I must have been having a dream that my husband was possessed or something, because I shot up and sat up right and like screamed a little bit. And anyway, he laughed at me the next day and he was like, you have to stop listening to this. But it's good if you're into it. It's I highly recommend it.
I just recently accidentally got addicted to unsolved mysteries, so I have a feeling that I would never stop listening to Drinking the Kool-Aid. But it also did give me nightmares. So like, I know I made fun of you, but I'm not really that much better.
Yeah, I have to start messaging Amanda to be like, which ones can I listen to, and what ones should I absolutely not listen to? Like I think they did one on an exorcism, and I'm like, that's gonna be a hard pass for me.
You should not do that. Don't do it for yourself, and don't do it for everybody
around me
to interact with you every day. Don't do it for me and Scott.
Yeah, I appreciate. Okay, I guess let's move into real estate.
Yeah. So what are we talking about today?
What are we talking about today? Today we're talking about the buyer consultation. So that meeting that you have with a real estate agent after you have decided that you want to buy a place or sell a place. No, we're talking about the buyer consultation. So after you want to buy a place.
After you want to buy a place. Oh, and this is part 1 of a 3-parter that we're doing kind of on like just trying to take you guys through the entire process beginning to end of you've decided to buy a house. How does that work?
Yeah. And we will talk specifically about the buying process and the buying consultation, so that meeting. But later on, we will do an episode on like the listing presentation and what sellers should expect and look for in a real estate agent as well.
Yeah.
But we'll do buyers for now. Sellers, we got you in January.
Yeah, hold your horses. So what's a buyer consultation?
A buyer consultation is the meeting, as I said, that you have with a real estate agent after you have decided that you want to buy a place. Generally what happens, well, in my experience, and then I'm pretty sure I can speak for a lot of people, especially the ones in my brokerage, is what's going to happen is you're going to get some sort of like viewing request or information request from a property, from one of your listings. Somebody's going to contact you with some property that they like and say, I want to go see this. When can you show it to me? Without any preamble or anything like that. They just kind of expect you to like go in and open the door for them and give you a tour. And that's not really how it works. It's not a good way to start off the relationship. And the reason for that being is you want to sit down and you want to get to know somebody. You want to figure out how they work. You want to make sure that you guys get along, that you're going to be a good fit. Like this is going to be somebody that you're going to be working with for, probably a couple months, even if you get really lucky and find your dream home on your very first outing, you're probably going to have a minimum of a 30-day closing. So like this person's going to be in your life for about a month minimum. So you're going to want to like them. You're going to want to trust them. They're also handling a massive like transaction for you. They're helping you through a very, very, very large purchase, probably one of the largest in your entire life. So you want to make sure that you trust that person that is doing all of this work for you, like negotiating on your behalf, basically.
And not only that you trust them, but that you get along with them and that you feel that they understand what you're looking for and also like have your best interests at heart, because like your job as the buyer is to come in and tell them what you want, and the agent's job is to say, here's the marriage of what you want and how it works. Like
exactly,
here's the intersection of those two things, and we'll Venn diagram it, and somewhere in the middle will be the right place for you.
Exactly. So in this meeting, basically you're kind of trying each other on. So, you're setting, each side is setting up expectations because like, not not everybody is going to have good chemistry, you know? Not every agent is going to want to work with every single person who sends them an email.
Yeah.
Really.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, it goes both ways. There's you need to trust them and they need to trust you and have a good vibe from you and want to work with you and know that your expectations are realistic and or that you're willing to adjust.
Yeah,
And meet in the middle somewhere too. So it's a mutual consultation really, right?
it really is. Yeah, I think I've said this before. Like, we are an HGTV generation. Um, we really are. And a lot of times on those shows, the price points are really weird because either the repeats or the shows are, the cities that they're looking in are really small, so the price points are just naturally lower, or who knows, but the price points on those shows are always weird and not really real, but we grew up watching that on TV, so we think that that's kind of what we're going to get, and it's not true. So yeah, setting up your expectations, telling the real estate agent what you want, what you're looking for in this place that you're going to move into, and making sure that it exists in real life. And I mean, truthfully, I tell my clients all the time, I do believe in unicorns. So, I mean, I do think that there is a property out there for everyone. And even if your expectations are really outlandish, like, lay them all out on the table. So, like, we can kind of like, you know,
Have them in the back of your head, right?
have them
Like
in the back
just
of your head.
just
Yeah.
know that if something does come up that's a unicorn, like you'll know to pounce and not to disregard it for X, Y, or Z reason.
Exactly. Yeah. So, like, if we find you a unicorn, we want to make sure, and that's the other thing too. Yes, pounce. Are you going to pounce? So, like, if if I find you a unicorn tomorrow, are you going to pull the trigger? Are you going to say, "Yep, that's mine"? Because I might be able to find you a unicorn, but holy shit, it's not gonna. I'm not pulling these things out of my ass. They're not coming out all everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Like, a unicorn is a unicorn for a reason.
Yeah. And that's part of it too. So the buyer consultation, step 1, get to know each other. See if you vibe, figure out if you like each other and you can work together. What's step 2? I feel like step 2 is kind of contracts and
Yeah, like,
uh
step 2 is setting up the expectations, I think, and like making sure that, like, we can achieve, what you're looking for, kind of thing. And when I say unicorns exist, I do believe that, but it is possible that we're going to have to rein you in a little bit. Okay, so, if you're telling me that you want it 25,000, you want to be Drake's neighborhood for 300,000, no, sorry, that unicorn will never exist.
yeah.
But you have to tell us before we can figure that out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So lay it all out on the table. We'll come up with a plan. We'll figure out everybody's expectations and we'll go from there. Yeah, so step 2 is setting up those expectations, making sure that everything's cool. And then, yeah, the next part is kind of like going into and explaining the paperwork and the contracts and explaining the buyer representation agreement.
So the BRA is a contract.
Yes, it is. It is signed between yourself, the client, not myself, um, and the brokerage. So when you are looking for real estate, you're a client of the brokerage, basically. So I, as a real estate broker, real estate sales rep, I'm a representative of the brokerage, basically. So for your protection, then there is, I guess, like an overseeing body who, like, helps make sure that, like, I have support, I have my registration and insurance and everything, all that stuff in line. So there is a brokerage. You're a client of the brokerage. I'm a representative of the brokerage, and I represent you in the real estate transactions that you are looking for.
Right.
And those are specific as well. So, like, in the contract, it states, like, you're looking for a certain type of property, like in a certain area. So it gives you a geographic location and it makes you describe, like, the residential property that you're looking for.
Right. And it's not like it has to be when they say geographic location, it's not like it's going to be on Dundas. It's like Toronto is the geographic location or
Actually, you can do either. So if you are kind of maybe trying on a real estate agent for lack of a better word. If you're trying to figure out if you guys are a good fit, maybe you'll sign a buyer representation agreement for just one property. So that way you're both,
true.
that way you're both protected. The real estate agent could show you the property, know that you're protected. If you want to submit an offer, that you're protected, that everybody's, going into this with their eyes wide open. And yeah, if you like it, great, you'll get to the deal done. But yeah, so basically the BRA protects both sides. It's, what other profession kind of works for you for free effectively, where you can walk away from the contract if your situation changed and there's no penalty, like there's no fee that I can charge you for like doing all of this work, if you ultimately end up deciding not to buy for whatever reason, so.
And to be clear, the BRA, signing a BRA doesn't stop you from walking away if your
No, it doesn't.
circumstances change. What
Yeah.
the BRA does is at least my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, please, is that you're stating that you are working with this specific agent for either this property or this duration of time. You will not be working with a different agent at the same time. It's basically protecting. In that aspect, it's protecting the agent's right to represent you for however long you've both mutually agreed for, or for whatever place you've both mutually agreed for. So again, like, this person is working without the promise of being paid. So at the very least, a buyer representation agreement states that as long as you are looking for real estate within the parameters of what's been discussed and laid out in the contract, this is the agent that you'll be working with.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you've committed to this one agent. And I'm sorry, you do have to get over your commitment issues just a little tiny bit to sign this. We all know that everybody of our generation has commitment issues, guys. We get it. We're there with you. But at the same time, deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
it's not a bad thing. It's not a contract. Honestly, truly.
Trustly? That was great.
Truly. To that Reddit thread, I don't even remember what it was that I saw. I sent you a picture of it, and I was like, never fucking let me get a Reddit account, or I will spend my entire life responding to this, and I will ultimately just turn into a Reddit troll. But anyway, to that Reddit thread that I saw, no, it is not sketchy to sign a BRA for one property. It is actually in your best interest to sign a BRA, and for that one property, because then you know that you're protected. Do you actually know what real estate contracts say, now that I'm thinking about this? What a listing agreement says. Basically, unless I have a contract with you, or like some sort of implied contract with you that I am representing you in a transaction, if a property is under contract with another real estate agent and I just take in like Joe Blow off the street, I am actually working for the seller. The way that the contracts work is like, I can't give you information, like I can't give anybody information just off the street, because like I have an obligation like to my profession to like maintain privacy and confidentiality. I can only give that information to like signed clients effectively, like people that I'm working with.
So without that contract as a client, like your agent, there's nothing stating that they can't just give your information out. Like, I mean, there's fiduciary duties and they shouldn't do that, and it's bad, but this is like, again, like, it's not, don't assume that people are going to do that. The point is more just like, this contract is your proof that
somebody is protecting you.
Yeah,
exactly. Like, this contract is your proof that somebody is looking out for you. Somebody's going to fight for you. Somebody has done due diligence for you, and somebody is going to make sure that your interests are protected in whatever transaction you get yourself into.
Yeah. And to be clear, like, the reason that we're stating this as well is because like a BRA is not, it's not actually technically a required document for all transactions. Like, you can do a real estate transaction without one, but a lot of agents will ask you to sign a BRA, and the reason is it's for your protection and for theirs. It just makes things clearer.
The only transactions that I can think of that a BRA is not mandatory for would be leases.
Yeah,
but even then, I have my clients sign a BRA for leases because it's honestly, it's just in everybody's best interest. Like, for example, if would you go to a lawyer's office and expect a lawyer to do work for you without signing a contract that they were going to be paid first, or like without having some sort of agreement in place first, like stating like this is what they were doing for you, this is how they were going to do it, this is how they're going to get paid, this is what they're going to get paid?
Yeah. And
Was
that too,
anybody
right? Like it's just it's guidelines and it's laying out. Yeah. I mean, I feel like like we have to explain probably to our audience the reason that we have our backs up so much is because of that Reddit thread, because there was like a whole
oh
conversation
my god.
about how BRAs, they're like, somebody was asking if it was sketchy, basically, if to
It was so
that
triggering.
an
And like all
agent
of the
wanted.
responses were like, oh my God, don't do it. Why would you do it? Blah, 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 blah. And it honestly, it just made me so mad that I was like, oh my God, I have to sign up for Reddit. I have to respond to, I have to correct all of these like woefully incorrect people. I was getting so like so physically agitated that like my whole body was just boiling. I'm getting irritated thinking about it.
So we're gonna
Also
move
really
away.
hot under my blanket for it, which is not helping.
Yeah, I don't think you need the extra
Agitation.
agitation. Katie's head's gonna explode like a cartoon.
I can see my face, like it's like getting redder, like in the camera.
Anyway, if you want more information about like why the BRA is important, listen to our episode with Sandra, because she goes into that in like quite a bit of detail, and explains why she thinks it's necessary and all the parameters, etc. But for the purposes of this, let's get back to where we started.
Which was the meeting.
Yeah, which was the meeting. You have your buyer consultation. You've decided that you jive with your real estate agent and they've decided that they want to work with you. You've set some expectations
Yeah,
about.
because that's the other thing too. And I know I've said this, but I also do want to reiterate. Some of y'all are crazy. And I don't want to work with everybody who's out there. Like, I love you. And I appreciate, honestly, I'm so grateful for all of my clients because every single one of my clients has been awesome. And I'm not exaggerating. There's not one client that I'm like, like hiding away, being like, oh shit, no, that person was actually shitty. Like, truthfully, all of my clients are awesome and have been awesome. So I'm very grateful that everybody that I've worked with has been cool. But like, I have also heard stories where I've been like, there's no way that I would be working with this person. I would have like either A, never agreed to work with them in the beginning, or B, fired them so much earlier. And like, we can fire our clients too, guys. It happens. So that's why I'm saying like this meeting is important to make sure that it's a good mutual fit.
Yeah.
Fit.
Yeah. So, buyer consultation, you've decided you like each other, you can work together. You've set some expectations. You're signing your contracts. You've signed your BRA. You've decided where the contract is for. Maybe it's a specific property. Maybe it's an area like Toronto or the GTA. Yes,
Oh,
Katie.
I want to put in one asterisk because I do want to say there is one tiny side piece to when you can work with more than one agent at a time. Okay, because that's the other thing. Like a BRA is an exclusive contract. You're working with one agent at a time, with a tiny exception being if you are looking in more than one area at a time, or if you're buying and selling and you want to work with a buyer's agent and you want to work with a seller's agent, you are allowed to do that. You just have to be upfront about it in the beginning. Like if you have a BRA signed with me in Toronto and you have another BRA signed with somebody else in Ottawa, that's okay, that's allowed. We're looking in two different areas.
Right.
But you have to be kind of upfront about that. Like if are you going to, if you buy a property in Toronto, are you still going to be buying a property in Ottawa? Are you buying a property in both? Like, as long as you're upfront, as long as everybody knows what's happening, that's okay. What's not okay is if the Ottawa agent all of a sudden sells you a property in Toronto when I have an active BRA with you in Toronto, or vice versa. If I started for whatever reason driving 8 hours to Ottawa to start selling you properties in Ottawa, I'm not going to do that. So I actually have an agent that I referred somebody who was looking out in Ottawa. So if that happens, that's bad. But otherwise, if you guys are clear that you're working in two different areas and looking for two different properties, you are allowed to work with multiple agents in that very narrow set of circumstances.
Yeah. Again, that's the point of a contract, is to like clarify, lay out all the parameters and have everybody agree on it so that nothing gets muddied and nothing gets complicated later down the line. It's a really helpful, good thing to have.
Mm-hmm.
So you have I know that, so the buyer representation agreement is signed between yourself and a client, but there's also something called a buyer customer service agreement, which is it's you wouldn't do both. It would be either or, right?
It would be either or, yes.
What's the difference?
What's the difference? So basically, one you're a client and one you're a customer. So there's a widely different array of services that are provided to both, basically. And what you want to look at first is actually an acknowledgement called the Working with a Realtor form. So it's a one-page form, and it goes into detail about what is a client and what is a customer, and it also talks a little bit about multiple representation. So it's, you can kind of decide then that you want to be signed up as either a client or a customer. If a customer service representation kind of fits with your flow better, go with that. Basically under customer service representation, we don't owe you fiduciary duties. We still owe you the same kind of obligations of disclosure and stuff like that. If there's something woefully terribly wrong with the property, we'll let you know. But we don't owe you the same level of obligations. It's basically we'll open a door for you, help you fill out the paperwork, and submit the offer. That's it. If it doesn't, personally for me, I always prefer to sign up my clients as clients, obviously, because it's just a much better relationship. I can do a whole lot more for you, basically. But there are some situations where a customer service agreement works better for your life. So just know what the differences are, basically, and ask some follow-up questions with your agent.
Yeah. And also I just want to say, so that's the difference between a BRA and a BCSA, and then also, and the working with a realtor is signed in either situation and always.
In either situation, yeah.
Yeah, it's always signed. It's just a piece of clarification paperwork that needs to be included with the entire package. You've mentioned multiple rep a couple of times. What is multiple rep?
Multiple rep. So there is a legal term called imputed knowledge. Dun, dun, dun. I actually work with a lot of lawyers. So when shout out to my sisters who are both lawyers and send me a lot of referrals. So thank you, Maddie and Claire, and all your friends. But yeah, so I work with a lot of lawyers, and I love working with lawyers because you never have to really explain the contracts to them because they already know all the legal terms. I mean, you explain the contracts to them, but it's you're a client, I owe you fiduciary duties. Yep. Versus when somebody who is not a lawyer, you have to explain what fiduciary duties is, or is multiple representation happens because of imputed knowledge. Yep. Versus explaining what imputed knowledge is.
Help! I'm not a lawyer. What the fuck is imputed knowledge?
Little side anecdotes. So imputed knowledge basically means that what one person at the brokerage knows, everybody at the brokerage knows.
Okay.
So when you have that's so if I am representing a client as a seller and somebody else from the brokerage is representing the clients as a buyer, that means that technically any information that I know about my seller's motivation or anything that they know about their buyer's motivation, everybody at the brokerage knows.
But that's not, but we don't want that. That would be bad.
So first of all, it doesn't really happen like that. I mean,
it could happen because you're under the same umbrella.
It could happen.
You're under the same company.
Exactly. It could happen because everybody is a client of the brokerage, not a client of the real estate agent.
Exactly. And the brokerage is representing both, because both of the agents on the buying and the selling side are representatives of the brokerage.
Exactly. Representatives of the brokerage. Yeah. So it's because you are a client of the brokerage and not the agent that this is an issue. So yeah, as I said, it doesn't really happen that agents go around and talk about their clients like that. We might talk about situations that we get into, kind of be hey, have you heard of this kind of thing before? But we're not naming names or anything like that.
Right.
So generally speaking, we don't know what's going on with with each other's clients, kind of thing. But multiple representation, you could talk to somebody about something, so it is a thing. So because of imputed knowledge, i.e. what one person at the brokerage knows, everybody knows. If a buyer and a seller are represented by the same brokerage, that's multiple representation.
Got it.
even if it's two different agents who
And
have never spoken before and who know nothing about each other's clients.
and the reason that it's included in the contracts is to protect both the buyer and the seller from the possibility of imputed knowledge, right?
Exactly.
So it's
Yes.
to say that like the agent for the seller is not going to share their client's motivation to the buyer at the same brokerage, because that would mean that it's like insider trading. Basically, it means that like
Exactly.
every other offer that comes in from other brokerages is going to be in a crappier position, because they're not going to have as much knowledge or information as the buyer coming from the same brokerage, and that's not fair.
Right. So when you hire a real estate agent, there is a certain amount of information that you can tell your agent that we do not disclose to other people. So one big thing is the seller and buyer motivation. So if you are selling your house because you're moving and you absolutely need to sell by that date and like you're desperate to sell, I'm not going to tell anybody that, because it will compromise your negotiation position, basically. Like
Right. People will
if a
come
buyer
in under offer, but give that date, and maybe you're
exactly
going to accept a crappier offer because they know something that other people don't.
Exactly. So I will be like, no, my clients are cool. Like, we're cool as a cucumber. We're gonna, obviously we need to sell because we're on the market, but like, like we're gonna, no, nobody's in a rush here, kind of thing. We're gonna make sure that everybody's interests are protected. So when you get into multiple representation, you still can't disclose people's motivations to each other, even if you personally are representing the buyer and the seller. I can't tell my buyer what my seller's motivations are, and I can't tell the seller what the buyer's motivations are. I can't tell each other what the bottom lines are. So
Right.
multiple representation gets tricky, and it needs to be very, very, very clearly explained, so you know exactly what is being said to who, and whatever, basically.
Yeah. And what's allowed.
And what's allowed. Yeah. And if you want your real estate agent to say, listen, I want you to tell everybody that sees this property what my motivation for selling is, then go wild.
Yeah.
It's probably honestly not going to help your negotiation position. So I don't know why you would do that, but you can tell buyers and sellers anything that you want them to know. You just basically have to let your agent know that it's okay for them to disclose it. Or if your agent comes to you and says, is it okay for me to say, for me to tell them that this is your bottom line? Like, it's up to you whether or not you want to let them know that.
Right. That makes sense. Okay, so multiple rep is just, it's included in there, and it's a complication, but it's a complication that's been made provisions for, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's acknowledged in the contract that this is a possibility, and that should it happen, this is how you, the client, are protected from it.
Yeah. And I always tell my clients too, like, I go into multiple representation a little bit, but I always say, if this comes up, we will go into it in way further detail. Like I'll go into it like basically like line by line, like what I can and cannot say. But it happens. I don't want to say infrequently, because it does happen, especially here in Ontario. In BC, I don't believe it's allowed anymore, but it happens. So
Yeah, it's one of those
it is
things
what
too.
it is.
It's like it's not necessary. It may call it 30% of the time. It happens
Yeah.
often enough that it's worth it to have some idea of it, but it doesn't happen so often that you need all the details unless you're in that situation.
Yeah, like don't stress about it. Like, we'll make it work, kind of thing.
Makes sense. Okay.
But yeah,
That was actually really helpful clarification.
you're welcome.
I don't even know if I said thank you, but thank you.
You didn't, but you're welcome.
Word. I like a lady who knows her mind. Okay, so is there any other part of the buyer consultation that we haven't covered, that's like important that you want to shout out?
Really? Well, I want to shout out Gary and Jessica for having the chats with us about this going into it. But really, it's just an opportunity for you guys to sit down, to get to know each other. It's almost like a first date. Like, do
Yeah.
you want to go on a second date?
Yeah, well, and it's also, I mean, again, like we talk about, like how many times can we talk about your real estate team? Like apparently
Yeah, a
upwards of
billion.
80,000. But like this is a part of that. This is the whole thing. Like you are, it's not as simple as I decided to buy a house. I found one that I like. I'm going to call a
Show
random real
me.
estate agent up and expect to be let in that day. Like there's a process to this that's
Yeah,
a little bit more complicated than that. Like showings aren't made that easily. There are lots of stipulations and
committees. Yeah.
restrictions that exist. And and actually, I do want to say, I think that the other thing, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but the other part of your buyer consultation when you leave, if you've decided to work together, is that you're also going to have to pull together your documents before you start looking. So, like you need a pre-approval. You need to have a
Yeah,
mortgage
if you haven't,
pre-approval.
if you don't have one already, yeah, you're gonna want to get a pre-approval from your
Yeah,
mortgage broker.
we're like your
And
agent's gonna need your ID and they're going to need like employment verification and they're going to need all the things that, like Katie said, if you find a unicorn, you need to pounce on that shit. But you can't do that if you don't have everything in place and ready to go before you even start looking.
yeah, so making sure that the agent that you're gonna work with has a team that can help you get all of that ready if you don't have it ready, um, is an important question to ask. You know,
Yeah.
who are your mortgage brokers? Who are your lawyers? Um,
Have
make
a home
sure.
inspector, like all of that stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll try to give my clients more than one name as well so they can kind of like call around, and because again, not everybody's going to have chemistry with everybody. Um, so, I would probably ask my agent for more than one name so I can give a few people a call. But that's just me.
yeah. And I mean, I think that's very nice of you. I think you're a very considerate person.
Thank you. I
But
appreciate
yeah,
that.
that's a huge part of it too. And that's not like I know we said that the very beginning of the process is a buyer consultation, but like really the very beginning of the process is pulling together your documents. And like at least the mortgage pre-approval is something that you can do ahead of time. But if you haven't, like that's going to be discussed in the buyer consultation. And you're
Yeah,
not going to be able to start going in and seeing houses
without
until,
it.
yeah, without it, until you, because again, like this is it, you're entering into a transaction, and
Yeah.
the seller of the place that you choose to buy is going to need to know that you can afford it and that you like are in a position to be able to move forward with it, like that you're not defrauding them, that you actually have the money that you
I
say that
laugh, but
you
that's true.
do.
Like, yeah, like you
Like
need,
that's a
you
real
want, yeah, sellers want to know that the people that are coming through their house are vetted. Like, put yourself in their position. Like, you don't want strangers walking through your house just because there are strangers walking through your house, especially in today's age of
Yeah,
he who
COVID.
must
Like
now be
that's
named.
is that how we're referring to COVID now? He's like Voldemort level.
I I think I've gotten there.
Okay, that's fair. So yeah, don't forget that too. Just that little caveat, which is like that there's a whole bunch of papers that you need. Um,
Yeah.
and
Be
again, like,
prepared.
but don't freak out if you don't know ahead of time. Like, have that buyer
Yeah, it's okay.
consultation. Talk to your agent; they will tell you what you need. Just don't
Yeah.
expect to have the buyer consultation and then leave the room to go see properties together immediately.
Yeah,
It's not how it
and
works.
stop being offended when a real estate agent is not going to open a door for you without having met you first. Like we're not getting paid until you buy a house. So we want to make sure that one, you're not a crazy psycho murderer, that we're not going to get killed. Because that is a
You are
concern.
traveling around alone with people, like
Yeah,
that's real.
that's a legitimate concern. So like
Oh,
we
open
want to make
houses are crazy. Like people get attacked, like agents get attacked at open houses. This is a thing. I found this out recently and it made me really like sad and upset.
Really? You just found that out recently?
You from you.
Oh,
I mean,
really?
I guess it wasn't super recently. It was like June, but that still feels pretty recently to me since this year has just been like one day, one
Basically
never-ending day.
the very yeah, the very first time that I sat down, like the like first day after I had my license, I sat down for a meeting with Sandra, and she was like, "Okay, so what would you do in like these 5 safety situations?" And I was like,
Ugh.
"Uh." She's like, "You need to think about this," and I was like, "You are scaring me, but you're making a very good point. I never thought about it before, but it's
Oh,
true.
Sandra's
Like
so great.
Sandra's so great. Everybody needs a
Oh my
Sandra."
god.
But yeah, no, it's true. Like, we are, I'm not going to go open a door for you after some strange guy calls me and says, hey, I like this property, can you show it to me? No sir, I will not. Can you please, like, we have to have a meeting like in at my office so I can make sure, like, with other people around, so that I make sure that my tiny little self is going to be protected
Yeah, that's
physically.
legit. And also, and in this like current age of, we just went into another lockdown for COVID, but real estate is still happening because it's an essential service. If you still are in a situation where you want to buy right now and you need to find an agent, you can do a virtual meeting. Like, that's
Yep,
allowed.
that's allowed too.
And that's a good way to get to know this person. I mean, obviously it leaves a little something to be desired because in person is always better, but like it's not like the expectation is that now you're going to go into this without meeting your agent first or without them meeting you. So if they ask for a virtual consultation, like that's a good sign and you
That's a
want
good
it.
thing. Yeah. I'd also argue that it's even more important now in the age of COVID, because if your real estate agent knows what you're looking for and can kind of like hone in on it faster, you will end up going into less properties, putting yourself and the sellers at less risk.
Yeah,
So,
that, and
you know,
also have a, if there are no showings and it's all virtual showings only, like at the very least your agent who has more experience going into houses, knowing, you know, all the tricks that photographers use on photos and virtual tours, will have a really good idea of what you want and what you need and be able to look at something like the photos or a virtual tour and
with a different eye,
yeah,
with
with
a
a
little
different
bit more
eye.
of a critical eye.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, that meeting is really important. Making sure that you trust the person that you're going to be working with is really important. So, sit down, stop being offended by these meetings, guys. They're really, honestly, truly in your best interest.
Yeah, and all, for those of you who were never offended, like, good, great.
Thank
We're not,
you. We
thank you.
appreciate
We're
you.
not,
You're the
we are
awesomest.
not
I
talking
know.
about you.
As soon as I said that the second time, I was like, this is polarizing. But um,
True.
but like honestly, like there are a lot of people who do get their back up and don't understand the purpose of this meeting, and I get that.
Or even the document gathering. Like I definitely see that with people who are like, I'm not giving you any of my information until I've decided that I found the place that I want. And it's like, that's
Yeah, like for
must be really
privacy
nice for
reasons.
you, but I don't know how you think that's going to work. Like,
Yeah,
it's just not how. And again, like if you're working with a licensed real estate agent,
we
they're
are
not,
yeah,
they're
we're
obligated to
bound by
keep
so
your,
many, like we're bound by
gonna stay
this code of
private.
ethics, this board, that council, like everything, like Pipeta, like that's a real thing, like the Privacy Act, like
Yeah,
everything
that's
that you
all
give
there.
us
The
is
the person
super
who's reached out to you
confidential.
is not going to take those documents and then start like photocopying them and throwing them out of condo windows onto the gardener, you know?
Yeah. And I do understand wanting to make sure that the person that you're giving those documents to is a person that you're going to be working with. But
Fair.
again, that's the importance of the buyer consultation. So
Yeah.
sit down, have that consultation, make sure that the person that you are sitting across is going to be the person that you want to work with, that they're cool, that you're going to have some jokes while you're doing this process, because it should be fun too. It's
Yeah.
not all serious. I mean, unless you want it to be all serious, in which case I'll
In
get you
which,
a referral.
yeah, I was gonna say, in which case probably work with a different agent than Katie. Which
I
is
mean, I
fine.
can be
There's
very
tons of agents. Like,
I can be serious too, but like, I like joking and laughing, and that's fun.
yeah. Oh, sounds so
But
sad.
I can help you. I can still help you. I can help
Um,
you find a serious agent.
yeah, there you go. Referrals are great.
Wait, that sounds terrible. I am a serious agent. Wait, I'm gonna stop talking now.
Everybody knows what you mean. It's fine. Um, Katie's professional. Anyway, I think that more or less covers it.
I think so
Am I
too.
right? That's
Yeah.
we're good. Okay. So, thank you for listening to this deeply rambly, long-winded explanation of a buyer's consultation. It was inevitable to some extent because we talked about contracts and paperwork, and there's just really no way not to be rambly. But and also tea.
Also,
We
tea.
talked
We
about
talked
tea
about tea for the
finally.
first time.
Let
We
us
have
know
talked
if
about
you
it before, but how many episodes have we deleted?
recorded where we, oh my god, I know, like you guys don't even know how many versions of, I mean, some of these come out like straight off the press, but a lot of them have been reworked, is a nice way to
Like
say
this
it.
one, for example. This is version 2.0 of this one.
Yes, it is. don't ask us for the deep cut. We're never releasing it.
No.
And yeah, if you want us to review teas, please let us know. That actually sounds really fun, and we might do it anyway.
Patreon.
Next episode is going to be on, you've decided that you want to work with a realtor. Now what happens? Going on showings and putting in an offer.
What happens with keys?
What happens with keys? Stay tuned
Ugh.
for next week's
No, it's coming out in the next hour. So
right.
you get all
Just
of these
stay
at
tuned.
once.
Just
Stay
stay tuned.
Woo.
And as always, like, DM us with any questions. Like I said, we talked about some convoluted legalese crap today. So, let us know if you need some clarification.
Let us know. Okay, cool.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to ProperTea Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in. And don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on all of the platforms.
And remember, if you have any questions about anything we've discussed on the podcast, or you want us to discuss, DM us on our Instagram at ProperTea Podcast. That's ProperTea Podcast.
See you next time.
Bye.